Hello, writers. Have you ever bought a writing craft book someone says you just have to read?
Is it still sitting on your shelf? Have you even cracked the spine?
That's totally me.
Don't ask Renee how many craft books she owns.
Why do we keep buying these books we never read?
We all want to improve as writers, but that's hard to do alone.
That's why we started the Words to Write By podcast, to tackle these books together chapter by chapter and learn from their advice.
Or not. Sometimes they're wrong.
Hi, I'm Renee Nelson, former college writing instructor turned full-time writer and podcaster. After many years, I finally have a complete draft of my memoir.
And I'm Kim Smugato, author of the humorous fantasy novel Our Comeback Tour is Slaying Monsters, which is the first book in the Boy Bands and Dragons series released by Riverfolk Publishing.
And now, on with the podcast. Hello, all.
Hello. Welcome to another Words to Write By.
Yeah, and this one is sort of special, as is there's only been a few of them. We're switching gears.
One of the ideas we first came up with the podcast was I didn't want to do the same advice every single time because at a certain point you run out of ideas. So that's why we decided to match it to a book. So we'd respond to the book, and then we got done with the book, we'd get a new book. And we broke that cycle recently when we decided to do a series on AI.
Which was totally cool.
Mm-hmm. We are very happy with the number of listeners that have come. Numbers have gone up.
Dude. So, yeah, like we've been averaging about 1,000 listeners a week, which blows our minds.
Because we don't know 1,000 people.
Well, yeah, these are strangers. These many strangers, like a few strangers listening to you on, their Spotify. Yeah, that's fine. But when it becomes 1,000... and a lot of you are in the Netherlands, which is hella cool too. Anyway,
we've done a lot with AI, but it's kind of a scary topic, and I kind of feel like we've hit a lot of the scary points.
We have. I wouldn't say we've exhausted it. That doesn't mean we won't ever come back to the topic. In fact, we might in the middle of this coming season or this coming book. Maybe we'll take a break from a chapter and go into an interview about AI. If something big happens, like that Anthropic thing that just took place where they paid.
They settled a lawsuit which involves paying a bunch of people whose books they took.
Right, which is apparently was strategic or people think is strategic to force other companies, AI companies, to start paying for the stuff they were essentially stealing. Anyway, that was big news. We're not going to do a whole episode on that.
No, because the other reason why we started this podcast was I wanted to actually go through these craft books and see if I could get something out of it. And too often I would read the first chapter or two, or maybe I wouldn't have been I just buy the book and then I let it sit around and collect dust because I just wouldn't get around to it. And this forces us to not only read the books, but to actually try them out. And it has improved my writing quite a bit. Some past books, especially like Bickham and also Bird by Bird. And so we are tackling a new book, which a lot of people swear by. And I'm hoping will inspire and move our own craft forward. Because not only are we starting a new craft book, but Renee has started a new project.
I have. So it's like perfect timing. Like everything's just like aligning. Oh my, the book we're going to do next is going to be very interesting. Let's just say that I've got some things to say.
The book we're going to do is called The Artist's Way, A Spiritual Path to Higher Creativity by Julia Cameron.
Dun dun. If this is not on your radar, I would be surprised. In fact, it probably has been, and you just didn't know it.
At some point, you have probably heard some other writers saying, I'm going to do my morning pages.
This is where it comes from.
This is where it comes from.
Yeah, and it graced the shelves of my woo-woo's mother's bookshelf for many a year.
Right, because this book isn't just for writers.
You know where you find this book? You find this book at the woo-woo bookstore with the crystals.
You've also find it in the self-help section.
That's true. It is also in the self-help section. You won't find it in the writing section.
Oh, I found it next to other writing books where I picked it
No
up.
way. Really?
Yeah. It wasn't a big bookstore, so.
This is a very, very popular book. Like very popular, but I think it also falls into the category of people buy it and then they don't actually read it.
It is a lovely looking book. It's got very nice paper. It's got a very nice textile feel to it. She says, I've worked artist hours with painters, potters, photographers, poets, screenwriters, dancers, novelists, actors, directors, and those who knew only what they dreamed to be or who only dreamed of being somehow more creative.
So essentially anybody who wants to be creative.
I have to say, I respect this because the actual market of people that want to write, people that want to become writers, it's substantial. But there's even a wider branch of people that have different artistic focuses or even just want to be creative.
Right. I mean, do you know anybody who's not?
They don't associate with me.
That's true.
That's true. Everybody wants to be creative. It's like everyone wants to be kind, or everyone wants to be successful, or everyone wants to be respected. They're positive things. Before we get started on the text itself, though, we often do a little bit of who we're learning from. So who is Julia Cameron?
So who is Julia Cameron? She is a writer in Christopher Vogler clothing.
She's from Hollywood.
She is from Hollywood, yes, just like Christopher Vogler. So it's a little weird. She was also married to Martin Scorsese, and they had a child together. But they were only married for 1 year. They worked on projects together. She's written a movie called God's Way. And then she's also, she worked in a movie called New York, New York. That was the one she wrote. And I think she directed this movie. There's no Rotten Tomatoes rating.
Huh.
So I'm kind of curious,
But you found an IMDb, right?
It's on there, but there's no rating or anything. There's barely anything on it. Somehow it's been scrubbed, or I don't know, maybe I'm looking into it more than it is. Her memoir, Floor Sample, by the way, this is Wikipedia, details her descent into alcoholism and drug addiction. So let's just say that will come into play later in this book, as I have some things to say. That's it. So she was in Hollywood, and now she's no longer in Hollywood, and she's written lots of books. Oh my God, she's got one called The Writing Diet. Write yourself right size. Oh my. So I guess this stuff can be applied.
The back of the book only has a handful of those books. So my guess is she's got her main titles, and by continually publishing other stuff, it probably keeps the main book on the stores around.
Yeah. She's worked on musicals, plays. She says she has some poetry collections. She did an episode of Miami Vice.
This is a woman, much like Volger, that has a central idea, and it resonates with people big time. She's been very successful in promoting this idea, and just the fact that so many people out there, quote, do morning pages means this book has had an incredible diffusion into the modern creative's workflow. The fact that she basically has this one thing and nothing else, you could also say, well, she has had one really successful thing, and that's why she's pushing it. But it looks like this is her thing.
This is definitely her thing. If you go to her website, you can go and do retreats with her. Morning Pages, The Artist's Way. There's 10 other books that are like the same book, but they just do different things with it. There's even a workbook,
which we did not get. The workbook is to hold all the exercises, because there are lots of exercise in this book.
Which is great for podcasting. That's exactly what we like it. So if you're following along, we are reading the 30th anniversary edition. I'm not actually sure how old it is, because this is just the one I got at the Goodwill. It was $4.99.
So the copyright's originally 1992.
My mother, who was a physical artist, she wasn't she did art, not writing. She swore by this, but then again,
did she do morning pages?
For a while, yeah.
Okay.
But then again, she did tarot, and she had crystals on top of the TV, and that was like the golden age. The 90s was the golden age of new agey stuff.
Okay, so the first introduction chapter, we know these introduction chapters are basically about why this book is going to change your life.
No preface?
You want to do the preface?
We don't have to do preface.
You can do the preface. I didn't read it.
You didn't? Oh, you're breaking the rules.
You don't have to read the preface.
We read it for... Isn't there a preface in Christopher Vogler's book?
Okay, but this one has an introduction. So I'll always read the introduction. But the preface... What did you get out of the preface?
I got a lot of weird stuff. She says she has Artist Way trophies. The physical proof that the tools in this book do indeed unlock creativity.
Oh, that right. Because she says that people will send her their successfully completed novels or whatnot that they got because they follow this book.
Right. She begins and she starts naming names. She'll name their first name, but she won't say anything else. She makes a lot of claims, and this is something that we will get into.
So this is definitely one of those books where it's supported by anecdotes. There was this person who was miserable, and they tried this program, and now they are successful in this way.
Yes, this is very self-helpy. Anyway, I just wanted to say that the preface, not only does she have the preface for the 30th anniversary, but if you go to the back of the book, you could find one for the 10th anniversary and one for the 25th anniversary. She doesn't waste anything. No, it's all in there.
Because the other thing about, selling this kind of book for 30 years is you need to make sure that people say, oh, maybe I need a new copy of it.
Maybe. Or it's just a new generation who hasn't found it yet.
I suppose so.
I
suppose it's taking off their parents' bookshelves.
They could, if they were like my mom.
Introduction.
The very first sentence, she says, when people ask me what I do, I usually answer, I'm a writer-director and I teach these creativity workshops. That last one interests them.
Okay, so this claims that she's going to teach creativity or she's going to unlock your creativity.
Right. They say, oh, you mean we're all creative? Now disbelief and hope battle it out. Okay, no one is having this conversation. This never happened. Right. And then she says, yes. And then somebody says, you really believe that? I'm like, oh, this is a weird conversation. Nobody would ever go up to somebody and say, you teach creativity? Really? Like, that would be rude.
There are two kinds of people that pick up a book like this. For me personally, actually, that's the reason why I was really excited to start this book, because I have written the first book. I'm writing the second book. I've got a good 70, 80,000 words of it, and I'm feeling a little bit stuck on how to proceed. I've been juggling a lot of other projects, and I just feel like that rhythm I had going into the summer is kind of gone. So I'm hoping that this process, this consistent, do these things every day, work on a chapter, do some prompts, will feed back into my creativity and will kind of put me on a schedule so I can start producing regularly. So that's, I think, one type of person that picks up this book. The other type of person that picks up this book is somebody who does not have a creative life at all. Person who maybe keeps a journal. Person who took some creative writing classes back in college. Person who is about ready to retire and has worked in a bureaucracy their entire life and now thinks they'd like to do sculpting or something like that. And they pick up this book because they have no idea how to get from regular life to creative life.
Yeah.
And I think that's why we got this introduction here, because it's to assure people that don't necessarily feel that they're creative that this book will help them.
So it's kind of more of a window into the kind of person that's going to read this book.
Yes, or definitely the type of person that would read the introduction. Because I could very well see someone saying, introduction, boring. Let's go to the basics.
That's true. Okay. And it just so happens that I too am starting something new, whereas you're trying to get back into that summer groove, working on your second book. I'm done with my memoir. I'm done for a while. I mean, I put it away and I'm not going to look at it for a while. So I'm working on my second book. It's a horror novel, believe it or not. I don't know if well, suspense, horror, sci-fi horror. So I'm doing something new, and this will be interesting. It's a process book. We haven't done a process book in a while. And so hopefully this will help me be more productive.
You've been working really hard at mining your own life for stories and ideas and themes, and you are switching out entirely because suddenly you're going to be called upon to make something up. And you'll be called upon to say, is that a good thing you made up? Is that a believable thing you made up? Is that something what people want to read about? You can't fall back on, well, I'm writing a memoir about myself.
Exactly.
So a lot of this book actually does deal with self-doubt and blocks that people have.
So usually when we start a new book, we talk about its promise.
Yes.
What's it going to promise us? It always has a promise, and does it fulfill it? Usually it's in a quote. It's I guess it would be the thesis. The thing I found, there's this one where she says, while using, teaching, and sharing tools I have found, devised, divined, and been handed, I have seen blocks dissolved and lives transformed by the simple process of engaging the great creator in discovering and recovering our creative powers.
I think this book basically promises that it's going to make you into the most amazing version of yourself ever. It's self-help. It's like it's going to change your entire life. And it's going to make you so much happier and fulfilled and all that stuff.
Right.
And then there's the weight loss one, so you can lose weight with that one too.
Right. So this isn't so much I'm going to teach you the elements of craft. Mm-hmm. And I'm not even going to necessarily teach you how to be more productive as a writer. I'm going to just teach you how to be more creative. And also it's already implying that there are blocks in our way, right? That like we have some problem that we need to overcome in order to access our creativity. And then she throws in this great creator.
Before we get to that, I wanted to just talk about the word creativity. Like when someone says that person's a creative person, what do you think about that person? What do you think creativity is? Do you think you're a creative person?
I'd like to think so.
Why do you think you're a creative person?
I think I'm a creative person because I like to chase fun in ways that maybe aren't obvious to other people.
Okay. I think the not obvious to other people is kind of critical when you think about creativity, because creativity is something unexpected. Someone who is creative is creating stuff. There's like a doing part of it, but that they're producing stuff that isn't expected, that doesn't follow the same path as everything else, that is unexpected and surprising.
Right. In the science world, I think they say that it has something to do with like taking two things that are seemingly unrelated and then finding a new way of combining them. And what comes from that, they say, is like creative thinking.
That one works for me. Like being able to look at something and connect it to something that is not normally associated with it. You know, Pride and Prejudice and zombies. Like, you know, that was a pretty creative idea. Nobody was thinking about putting zombies into a Jane Austen book. Or various types of fusion cuisines. You know, you're adding this to that. Now, once it becomes established, like we're adding bacon to this and we're adding bacon to that, it's not as creative anymore. But there is something for that first person, or those first couple of people that were like, oh, we can combine these two things together. And I think you get a lot of humor that way. Also, like you're reading a story and there's an incredibly funny part and then suddenly it goes incredibly sad and you're just really pulled along. There's a creativity to coming up with that, or, you know, a conclusion of a book that you didn't see coming, but has been built all the way in. Likewise, art. Often you're impressed with some piece of art because it shows you something you hadn't really thought about before.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's not, I wouldn't fall into the trap of saying it has to be original. Because again, there's nothing really original. It's new.
It's new, but not original?
Yeah. Because it had to come from somewhere. So there's kernels of its inspiration from previous places.
Well, that's the whole idea, is that basically you're taking two things that maybe weren't.
Right, but it's not original, because original would assume that it came from nowhere. And nothing comes from nowhere.
You're basically saying that there was one original thing way back then, and then nothing else can be original because we had the one original thing?
No. I'm not saying that. Okay. I think if you want to go so far back, you know, you'd have the handprints, right, on the walls and the horses, you know, in the Cro-Magnon caves. Right, like even that had to have been inspired by something.
Right.
But with that said, sometimes just taking something that's already there and giving it a new life in a new quote unquote way, without the original, without the thing that you riffed off of, your thing couldn't exist. So I worry, because a lot of people will say, oh, that's been done, or that's not original. And it's like, well, that doesn't necessarily mean it is not creative, nor worth pursuing, because there's really no such thing as okay. And I'm not going to go into lecture mode, but if you really want to go into it, there, you know, especially with writing, there's that whole theory of influence thing. We all are, you know, just kind of like machines riffing off other machines in order to come up with the new machine.
Okay, so two things. First of all, would you say fresh might be a better word then? As opposed to something is originally say, this is fresh.
Yeah.
So let's not worry about originality, but let's just say like something that's fresh, something that's unexpected. That's creativity.
I would say so. Okay. And I know this sounds tacky, but I want to read a poem by Emily Dickinson because I think she captures it perfectly.
Okay.
Tell all the truth, but tell it slant. Success in circuit lies too bright for our infirm delight. The truth's superb surprise, as lightning to the children eased, with explanation kind, the truth must dazzle gradually, or every man be blind. So I read the whole poem, but the line that usually gets quoted is tell it slant. Or tell the truth, but tell it slant. If you could say truth is what you're riffing off of, something that's in front of you or something, that you've been inspired by, you don't just repeat it. That wouldn't be creative, would it? You tell it slant. And that, to me, is creativity. There we go. All right.
So what does she think creativity is?
Emily Dickinson?
No, Julie Cameron.
I don't know if she actually defines it. Does she?
She doesn't say exactly what creativity is, but there's a lot of spiritual elements. There's a lot of some sort of higher power or something outside us that brings creativity, and then we connect to this higher power.
Yes. Her creativity requires a conduit to a higher power.
Right. Is the conduit the creativity, or is it actually the higher power that is giving the creativity?
I don't know.
So she says up front on the first page, the introduction, that this book uses the word God.
Boo.
And then she says...
Sorry, say it again.
Oh, no, that one's staying to this podcast. So it's always interesting before we start a book to say, what kind of caveats are we? What things are we bringing that we're not so sure about? And I think the thing we're not so sure about is the whole spiritual God aspect of this book and whether or not it can work if you're not woo-woo like that. And she says, please be open-minded.
Boo. No, I don't like that. I think it's almost like she's judging me. She's judging anybody who doesn't like the God thing. Maybe she should be open-minded. Sorry.
So that isn't the best mindset to come to a book like this.
Hey.
She says you can use other words. You can have good orderly direction or flow.
I do like good orderly direction.
I like flow.
Sure.
Have you ever experienced a state of just being really creative?
Yeah, it's called the muse. They turned it into a deity already. The Greeks already been there, done that. She acts like it's this new thing. There's poets everywhere talking about the conduit, to God or whatever. All right, so just full disclosure, and Kim doesn't have to say anything. She can do her own thing. But I am an atheist. I'm a staunch atheist. I'm so atheist that I'm practically agnostic because technically you can never really know. Like if you really go down the logic rabbit hole, there could be something. And who am I to say, it doesn't exist?
You're such an atheist, you can't even commit to being an atheist.
Yes, because there's no evidence one way or another. However, I'm an atheist, and the God stuff does rub me the wrong way a little bit. So I'm going to call it, I don't know, Bob.
I was trained as a scientist, and at one point I was in the lab, another scientist was in the lab. We were commenting how, overall, you just don't get that many Christians in the cell biology sciences because they have to go to church on Sunday and we have to come into the lab and change our cells. And that was on a Sunday morning. I'm like, yep, that's what it is.
That does make some sense.
She also has a shout out to science. By the simple scientific approach of experimentation and observation, a workable connection with the flow of good orderly direction can be easily established. My note was, let's test that hypothesis. This isn't just a little like bird by bird. And Lamont, she had some God in there.
Oh, she had that woo-woo chapter. I
She
went
definitely-
all in there.
But, it was scattered. And I'm realizing this is going to be every single page in this book. So either you're going to be really good at just having a filter where you just let it go past, or how about this? In this book, in these episodes, you may have one rant.
Just one?
One per episode, in which you can pick one particular phrase that you really despise, and we can talk about that. But other than that, we're not going to mention the God principles unless it becomes absolutely critical to understanding a chapter.
Okay, I rolled my eyes. If that could make a sound, I would have.
I like to think that this will cause you to winnow down the absolute quotes you hate the most,
Okay.
and to really go to town on them properly.
All right. I will,
Okay?
I will
So
do
it
that.
won't
I
be
promise.
Okay.
I promise.
Something to look forward to.
Okay, so it says, just to give, I guess I'm going to throw her a bone. She does say, if you remain forever an atheist, agnostic, so be it. I guess she's just giving up on me here. You will still be able to experience an altered life through working with these principles. Phew. So she's promising me that I'll get something out of it.
I mean, she has this phrase, it is not too late or too egotistical or too selfish or too silly to work on your creativity. So like, again, like for people that feel that they don't have a creative life but want one, or feel in the back that they could be creative, but they just don't see themselves being creative, this is the promise of this book. And for everyone that's actively being creative already but really needs a good kick in the pants, this book can do that too, apparently.
Right. Or if you have some creative blocks and, a lot of negative self-talk, this is supposed to break it down. Mm-hmm. So you can, tear it down and move forward.
It's also on the theory that basically our lack of creativity has to do with these blocks. Like if we're in a bad spot as a creative person, it's not working, then it must be that we have some underlying doubts or negativity or something that maybe we haven't recognized. So that's the other part, is that like there's some pretty harrowing stories in here about people that aren't creative. And I'm wondering if it works for people that really don't have a serious origin story.
Maybe.
By the way, her origin story was back in 1978 when she stopped drinking.
So this is, I'm not saying I'm very familiar. I'm actually not very familiar with AA, but I am familiar enough to pick up on the AA lingo a bit. I've never been to an AA meeting, just full disclosure there. But this reads like somebody who was like, I wonder if I could apply AA principles to unlocking creativity.
I bet there's something to that. Definitely the higher power and the improving your own mental tools and such as to be able to access this higher power and creativity does feel like it fits.
Yeah,
squarely.
and the letting go and the accessing, previous dreams, things like that. Oh, there was another quote in here I kind of liked, or at least I think explains what's going on with what kinds of things you're going to do and the results of what you're going to get out of them. She says, what you are doing is creating pathways in your consciousness through which the creative forces can operate. That sounds good to me. Because I think that is possible. Like science would agree if science were a person or a thing.
Yeah, and like the bird by bird approach also talks about, that you develop a routine, you develop a way of doing stuff. You commit to doing something every day continuously, even if it's not much. Ray Bradbury, he wrote a certain number of short stories in a year, and he just kept producing. Like that kind of consistent dedication is what gets books and novels and large art projects done. That continuously going back, even when you're not feeling creative, even when you're feeling kind of meh, even when you go through and you're really hating the stuff, but you're still continuing to come back day after day to do it. So if this is tools to help us come back day to day after to do it, sign me on.
Yep.
All right. Is that it for the introduction?
She mentions she had an office on Paramount. She was a screenwriter. She mentioned she was sober. She has some interesting quotes. Like she said, writing became more like an eavesdropping and less like inventing a nuclear bomb.
I like the idea that she started teaching because she was walking down the street in West Village, and I suddenly knew what I should begin teaching people, groups of people, how to unblock. Maybe it was a wish exhaled on someone else's walk. I need to unblock. Someone might have breathed out. I know how to do it. I may have responded picking up. So it's like she got the teaching virus.
Yeah, but what's annoying is she's not like, I should become a teacher because I have all this training and I could share it with people. She's like, I should teach groups of people because the idea just came to me, even though I really have no reason to teach anybody anything. I mean, at this point, she hasn't proven to me that she can do anything. She's like, I'm going to go do this and teach creativity. Why you? Why do you get to teach it? What makes you so successful? Like Ray Bradbury had chops, man. You read his book. He says, I'm going to teach you how to be more creative. You're like, hell yeah.
How many people are doing the morning pages?
I don't
every
care.
day? The proof is she was successful.
But this is the introduction.
This is creating your origin story. The origin story always comes like on the second or third comic episode.
I guess. So you think she's going to tell us her credentials later on in the book?
No, I think her credentials is that this is the 30th edition of The Artist's Way, and people out there keep buying it. That's her credentials.
So I could write a book like this.
Renee, you could totally write a book like that.
I'd be like, I was walking down the street and I caught a virus.
You could totally do that. Think of all the people that start religions on pretty much that premise.
But that's what freaks me out. Like, I'm like, oh my God, we're going to follow this cult leader. Don't sue us, Julia Cameron. Don't do it. We have nothing. We're in the red, okay? We don't make any money doing it. Okay.
There's a certain amount of chutzpah that puts someone in the position to write self-help books. And some of them are successful. And this one is very successful.
Okay.
One could also say that a con man truly understands the human psyche because they have to.
But I'm just preparing myself for entering into this infomercial of a book.
Oh, by the way, the other thing about this book is, unlike a lot of others, this one is a program. The chapters after we get done with today's episode are week by week. So we're not going to be combining chapters. We're going to do one chapter a week. And the chapters suggest that you read the chapter on Sunday, and then you look at the exercises, and then over the week, you do a certain set of those exercises along with some other stuff. And then the next week, you start the next chapter. So we are committed for 3 months of this.
Oh, God. You added all it up. Yes, it is. 3 months. So I just want to throw out there the last bit that I'm going to say for the introduction. So one of the people who has no name, she says the story is, students materialize all over the globe. Quote, I am in Switzerland with the State Department. Please send me your stuff. So I did. Really, someone in the Switzerland State Department called you and asked for your morning pages.
Guten Tag, we need your morning pages in Switzerland.
I don't think that's what they say. In der Schweiz. Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
And French and all the other ones. But
okay.
Yes.
Anyway, all I'm saying is she uses a lot of rhetorical examples of people that have no names.
That first names at most, and, little vignettes.
And how this person in the State Department of Switzerland knew about these morning pages in the first place. Because it says, the writing way began as informal class notes mandated by my husband, Mark Bryan.
Okay.
The word of mouth spread. I began mailing out packets of materials until the bitter end of this paragraph where she talks about some Swiss person in the State Department asking for her notes. That is a little weird. I know I'm reading this book wrong. I'm taking everything literally. It's a thing I do. And that's why y'all love me, right, dear listener?
Okay. So let's go on. We cover 2 more chapters in this podcast. The first one is the chapter entitled Spiritual Electricity, the Basic Principles. Okay, so this one here, we're really going into the whole spirituality and what this book is promising. So she has some basic principles. She says here to read them through once a day and keep an inner ear cocked for any shifts in attitude or beliefs. This is an incredibly banal set of platitudes in my mind, starting with creativity is the natural order of life. Life is energy, pure creative energy.
Yeah.
Maybe I will attempt to read this every week, and I'll just see if at any point I don't try to gag while I'm reading it. But yeah, as we open our creative channel to the creator, many gentle but powerful changes are to be expected. I'm not getting anything out of them. Did you get anything out of those? You have some markups too.
Oh, I've got it everywhere. Yeah, the basic principles. So one of them is we are ourselves creations. We are. And we, in turn, are meant to continue creativity by being creative ourselves. Like, this is a principle. This is something we have to keep in mind while we go through this book. And I already have issues with that because we're not creations. I mean, perhaps we're creations, but it's not intelligent design here, folks. It depends on the person. Maybe somebody else, Julia Cameron's like, I'm sure there's a God who put humans together and that's how we came to be and all the animals and all this other stuff. But are we meant to be creative? Our brains?
We're meant to reproduce.
Exactly. That's what we are meant to do. And I believe creativity is a byproduct of our intelligence and a bit of a mistake. I don't think it was created for any kind of purpose, which leaves me out to dry a little bit. These principles are leaving us both out to dry.
Yes.
When we open ourselves to exploring our creativity, we open ourselves to God. Ew. I don't want to. Are we going to lose a lot of listeners with this book?
I don't think so.
It'll be good. I promise you, dear listener, we're really good. This is just the introduction. These first 2 chapters are really kind of out there. But then it goes into week 1 and actually has us do activities. So
we can talk about the activities.
Right. Are there any more principles? I mean, I don't know if we need to read them.
No, I was going to skip over. I mean, I think we should check in occasionally and see if the principles mean anything to us, but we can pretty much say whether they do or not. Or maybe if at any point when we're reading through, the principles start to mean something, then we can make sure we had that other person committed. Page 4 is how to use this book for your own creative recovery.
Recovery.
There are a number of ways to use this book. Most of all, I invite you to use creatively. I use it creatively because it's all about creativity. I wrote as kindling.
In case you get a little cold while you're doing your morning pages in the morning.
This is where she's talking about what to do with this book. Basically, the week by week that we're talking about. So she's saying that roughly it's going to take a little more than an hour a day to do the exercise and the requirements from the book. She suggests students set a weekly schedule that you start on Sunday to Sunday of the week. Begin by reading the chapter of the week on Sunday night. After you read the chapter, speed read through the exercises. And then she says to pick some of them to do. Try to do about half the exercise. And when she says you're picking the exercise, pick those that appeal to you and those you most strongly resist. I will say this is actually kind of a clever approach. Like if I were to try to do all of them, I just would never get around to the ones I don't like at all. So if I pick the one that I feel the best about, then I pick the one I feel the worst about.
I'm actually going to write a note. We haven't read week 1 prompt yet. So I'm going to write that down. I'm going to write on the top of the page, pick the ones we like the most and the ones we most resist. So that will be one of our assignments when the next episode comes out.
Also, as you were pointing out, we're not talking about creativity as much as creative recovery. So the idea is we're damaged from the get-go.
Oh, yeah. We were creative people and we've fallen from grace and we've lost our mojo and we need to recover. Mm-hmm. Or we tried to stop being creative and then we fell off the wagon and became creative again. And now we relapsed into creativity.
If we relapsed in creativity, we wouldn't need this book, right?
That's true. Okay, so the opposite is
we were creative and we've fallen off the wagon in creativity and we're trying to get back on.
Right. We are. It's not Alcoholics Anonymous. It's Creativity Anonymous. Mm-hmm. Okay.
She also talks that there will be kind of a emotional arc. In the beginning weeks, you'll have delight, and then you're going to get some anger, and then you're starting to get grief with waves of hope. So we're going to be like initially like, this is the awesomest thing ever. And then we're going to get angry because we realize, society has done this to me and all these bad things. And then we'll mourn the fact that we spent so much time not being creative, but there'll be brief intervals of hope as we see the creativity options coming towards us.
It's like the stages of mourning, right? Our creative blocks will die and then we'll mourn them. Mm-hmm. Should I put that also in the assignment? Like we should talk about that when we do? Will we go through this like emotional roller coaster?
Possibly, or maybe we should check in with our spouses and find out if we've like gone completely emotionally bonkers from this.
Ask Max
if I've gone crazy recently.
If recently,
well, in the course of reading the book.
Okay, crazier from this assignment. All right.
Do you have anything you want to say about that whole what we've got coming?
What we have? Oh, this next 12 weeks are going to be fun. What does she say? She says, she calls it a birthing process. The peaks and valleys phase of growth becomes a series of expansions and contractions. Birthing process in which students experience intense elation and defensive skepticism.
You know what makes the birthing process so much better? An epidural. An epidural makes it so much better.
Oh, I want the epidural for this book. I wonder what that would be. Drinking? It would be the opposite of AA. Oh, that's not good. Okay, no.
Okay, so here's another concept she brings in, which is, if this sounds like a lot of emotional tumult, it is. When we engage in creative recovery, we enter into a withdrawal process from life as we know it. Withdrawal is another way of saying detachment or non-attachment, which is emblematic of consistent work with any meditative practice. So I've heard the term detachment and non-attachment, and that is actually part of the meditative practice, where it allows you to kind of pull yourself out from the day-to-day interactions, the kind of like immediate responses to things, and allows you to view them from further away and to make better choices and not to be as emotionally trapped as before. So it makes sense. Part of being creative is that you're able to step back a little bit and observe.
Right. Mindfulness. Mm-hmm. You know, if you're open to mindfulness techniques and meditation, which has been scientifically backed to really help, you can think of that more. The more we go into this book, maybe focus on that. That's what I'm going to have to do.
I mean, I've found that meditation actually has helped my writing quite a bit. In the past, I've learned that doing meditation has improved my ability to write and to focus and to not get distracted. And so this book is going to give, when we're talking about some of the techniques, they are equivalent to meditating in certain ways. So maybe having this book on top of the meditation might either make it less effective, or maybe it will be cumulative and it will improve.
Do you meditate every day?
I've been trying to meditate every day for about 10 minutes.
10 minutes. Okay.
I haven't succeeded, but it's been my goal.
You know, dear listener, if you've been thinking of meditating, maybe this could be part of the activity or part of the journey, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For the 12 weeks?
Yeah.
You already do it.
I've been doing it. I mean, I've been doing it for other mental health reasons.
Yeah. I'm going to add it into my routine, back into my routine, because I really want this to work.
Yes. For all that we're dissing this book, we want it to work.
Right. And so to increase its effectiveness, I'm going to add in something I know works, which is meditation. All right, everybody, back to the book.
Another point she brings up is, quote, many of us find that we have squandered our own creative energies by investing disproportionately into the lives, hopes, and dreams and plans of others. Their lives have obscured and detoured our own. So part of this book is the idea to learn to set boundaries to protect our creativity and our time to be creative. I think this is actually a pretty important aspect of a creative person's life, is to be able to set boundaries and to give themselves space to be creative, because it's if you don't demand that kind of space, first of all, you won't have the space to be creative. And second of all, you're not going to feel like your creation is worth it as much. It's like why we go on retreats. Like, they're kind of expensive. They put a pressure on our loved ones to basically do stuff without us while we're gone. But by demanding that bit of time, it makes our productivity that much better on the retreat, because we know that we've made a priority to be creative, to be productive.
Yes. And so if any of you are more interested in this topic, there's an older book, but it's very good, by Virginia Woolf, called A Room of One's Own. And the premise of the book is a series of essays where she talks about women specifically. In order to be productive and creative, women need a space where they're not distracted, and they need a space of their own that nobody else can touch. She literally meant it's literally a room. Like, she had her own office, her own room in a house.
With her own door that she could lock.
With her own door that she could lock. And she was talking about the importance of that. Now, okay, she's writing early 19th century, late 19th century. And I understand that women had to do a lot. And even as an established author and all this other stuff, I'm sure there were forces keeping her away from the pen and the page. And, you know, she had to do these kinds of things. At the same time, it's not like that has changed all that much, because women do a lot of free labor. We do like 3 years more labor than men in a lifetime, believe it or not. Free. So if you're a dude, it's cool too. There's a lot of demands on your time. So I'm not just kind of like, you know, just only the women here. But we are two ladies, and I will say that a lot of times I feel like my time is getting sucked up by things that I really don't want to deal with. but that need to get done. Cooking is a big one for me. I don't like doing it. It feels very thankless. And it takes a lot of time to chop vegetables.
And then you have to clean up afterwards.
Dude. And then, your husband doesn't always do it. And I will say we had a fight not too long ago about cleaning the car. And he was mad at me. He goes, the car is so dirty. And I'm like, well, I can't fit it into the things that I want to do. And he's like, but it acts like you don't care. And I'm like, you know what? If you stack it to all the other things I have to do, you're right. I don't. I'm pulling out my dirty laundry here on air. But that's what I'm saying is I had to pick on the things that really mattered to me. And I just really don't have the time to do it. So you know what? I don't care if my car is dirty.
My husband's come up with a realization that he's basically eliminated the he should do list from things as tasks, because he should do is stuff that he doesn't actually want to do and he doesn't want to get around to it, and it just sits around making him feel guilty. Like they're the things he wants to do and the things he needs to do, and those things that he quote should do. Why have that list? Why not just focus on the stuff that needs to get done, you don't have a choice in the matter, and the stuff you want to get done, and put your energies to that.
That's a really good piece of advice. What's one thing on your should do?
I have a stack of papers that I should go through. At a certain point, I will need to go through them and then I'll do them. But right now, it's still small enough that it's a should do list.
But you shouldn't. You should just let them sit there
Until I need to do them.
When will you ever need to do them?
I could see the point where I need to find something in it or whatever. We need to have that room be cleaner than it currently is. There'll be a point where we need to do it.
You are a mom. You're like the quintessential example. I mean, you're not, but
I'm on the tail end of mom.
You're on the tail end of mom. So what kind of boundaries do you think you're going to have to create?
Well, one of the things I did was we switched bedrooms. My husband and I took the larger bedroom because we were only down to one kid.
Your son went to college.
Yeah. We redid the bedroom and I redid a corner of it to be the office / podcasting space.
And it's beautiful.
And it gave myself a space where it was my space. And I think that was actually a pretty big thing right there.
Has everyone stayed out of it?
Oh, yeah.
It's not actually in the closet anymore. We're on like the side of the closet now. We've graduated.
But it's painted and it's got a good light and it's got a great desk I found. And I'm going to get myself a fancy chair come next birthday.
No way.
It's going to be so nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And, I loved the color so much in her room that I had to steal it. So now it's in the same colors in my living room.
Yeah.
And the orange color too, I think.
A variation on it. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, your house is looking really good.
So we want to go through this bullet point list she's got here.
Yeah. I think actually you wrote the same thing I wrote. Which of these bullet points applies? The idea is, how do you know if you're creatively blocked? Do any of these particular bullet points apply to you?
Let's read them all and then we'll go back and say which ones work.
We'll alternate. Stop telling yourself it's too late.
Stop waiting until you make enough money to do something you'd really love.
Stop telling yourself it's just my ego whenever you yearn for a more creative life.
Stop telling yourself that dreams don't matter, that they are only dreams, and that you should be more sensible.
Stop fearing that your family and friends would think you crazy.
Stop telling yourself that creativity is a luxury and that you should be grateful for what you've got.
So which ones apply to you?
The first one and the last one.
Okay, stop telling yourself it's too late, and stop telling yourself that creativity is a luxury.
Yeah. So like the first one, stop telling yourself it's too late. I feel like I've beaten my head against the wall trying to finish that darn memoir for so long. And it has been so long since I was in school. It's just like, you know what? I should just give up the ghost. I tried. And at some point I should just say, you know what? I'll just cash in my chips and move on and do something completely different.
Well, I mean, technically you finished the memoir. Now you are moving on.
Right, but this is the negative self-talk.
Okay, so this is
what I tell myself.
This is the thing that would keep you from starting a new project?
It keeps me from working.
Okay.
It's the voice that's telling me these things all the time.
That you spent too much time and it's too late to do anything else?
Yeah, like I had enough time to level up and be successful, and I technically haven't published a book or anything. So you know what? I should just cash in my chips because I did it and I didn't make it. So it's not worth continuing.
So mine are, I got 3 of them here. So one of them was stop telling yourself it's just my ego whenever you yearn for a more creative life. Like when I get to egotistical people, like, it rubs me the wrong way. And the idea that I deserve to have this creativity, like many people are being creative. There's only going to be so many spots. Like there's only so much attention people have. There's only so much focus they're going to have. There's only so many people that are going to get lucky in that way that pushes them ahead. And to presume that I would be one of those people to, step forward and push my own project or something, it feels like a truly egotistical thing to assume that I'm so special as to, jump into a conversation and push my own stuff.
Right.
That one's a hard one for me. I think also it kind of makes you miserable if you assume that when you've got an ego and it's not being fed, you're going to be miserable. So I don't know if I want to get an ego.
Interesting. So it's kind of like going contrary to your identity of yourself or how you see yourself.
I think so, yeah.
Is that preventing you from writing?
Yeah, I think it sows some self-doubt. Like what I'm doing is kind of silly. I think it causes me to demean my own writing because I'm not egotistical enough about it. I don't want to be egotistical about it.
Interesting.
Then the other one is stop telling yourself that dreams don't matter, that they are only dreams, and that you should be more sensible. This goes back to the whole, other people's requirements. Like things need to get done right now. Like we need to plan this one thing. We need to work on this one thing. We need to be sensible and, focus on the here and now and things that need to get done.
Yeah, you have people to take care of.
And this could also fall into the area of the world is going to hell in a handbasket. We have to be more sensible than sitting down and writing silly stories.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Yeah, the world is burning down.
Yeah.
And what are we doing? We're sitting around writing about
our stuff or writing a social media post on it or, podcasting. Like,
who are we to do that when the world is burning? Yeah, I can see that.
And then I also highlighted this last one.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah. We both have the same one.
Yeah.
Stop telling yourself that creativity is a luxury and that you should be grateful for what you've got.
Because I work on gratitude a lot. I mean, that actually helps me get through the day when I sit back and I look at the really wonderful things in my life, and I'm grateful for that.
And that helps you what?
That helps me just center myself and not be miserable. Again, it's a bit to do with the ego thing. If I look at kind of how really lovely my life is and how delightful it is, even that I can sit down and, type up a story and have the time to do that. So should I ask for even more than that?
I don't know.
How do you interpret that?
This is a very complicated one, and I'm going to try not to get too much into it because I can get into story mode, and I'm not going to. But if anybody you've been paying attention throughout this journey of this podcast, I came from very meager means, and I was very poor at one point, and I found writing and poetry because it was free. It doesn't cost a lot of money. You get a journal, you get a pen, and that's what I focused my efforts on. And I had this little fantasy in my head that maybe I would be a poet someday or I would be a writer because also dreaming is free. And I went through such dire straits for so long. I didn't finish high school. I had to get my GED when I was 19 and I went to college. And I have seen the gamut, not completely, people have had it way worse than me, but I have seen the gamut of despair. I've seen it and I've experienced despair. And I feel it haunts me a lot of the times. And I think at this point in my life, I do not need writing to save my life. And that's what I needed it for at one point. Getting through college was all about writing because I was a literature and a creative writing. I felt like a monkey jumping through hoops. I have to please these people. I have to please the professors. I have to please magazine editor, all these things to move forward so that I could save my life from a dire life of working at Staples full time and standing around asking if you want fries with that or whatever, and that haunts me because I feel like now that I don't have to worry about those things, I feel ungrateful. I feel like I'm wasting time. I feel like, well, if I haven't gotten it by now, it's kind of a mix of the two, the first and the last, where it's like, I should be grateful that I don't have to do those things. So why torture myself trying to get this last little bit? Which is not little, but why pursue it? Is this making any sense?
So back when you didn't have any money and sitting down and writing poetry was this kind of like really wonderful thing you could give yourself. And now that you are in a much more stable position and you can go on trips and you go see concerts and you can improve the yard work and you can do, some stuff in the house and you can go out and buy the more expensive baking ingredients to bake something, you've got all these wonderful little luxuries. So the fact that then on top of that, you do this silly thing of creativity that, all those other things have like an obvious benefit too. Like you're doing something with your friends, you're doing something for food for everyone in the house, you're making the house a better place. You're like, to have writing on top of that is kind of one more luxury that.
Right. Or it just feels like a burden. It doesn't feel like a luxury anymore. It feels almost like a burden of something I have to do. I have to do it. Why do I have to do it? Like, I don't need a reason to make cookies. I invent reasons to make cupcakes and cinnamon rolls. But writing is hard. Is this make? I don't know. I think it matches. Maybe I'm not looking at the word luxury.
No, I mean, this is all about unblocking ourselves. I'm sure she'll get back to addressing these things as we go through the various weeks.
Yes.
But that is a neat little checklist. And I think that part of doing this book correctly is to sit down and really like examine these things and not just say, oh, that belongs to like the people that never write or never creative. It's very easy for me to go through this book and say there are certain sections that don't apply to me because they're just for that one stockbroker that was never creative in his life and got this book.
I can't. Oh God, her examples are awful.
Okay, so originally I was going to have this podcast be the next section called The Basic Tools, but we've already hit an hour mark. So let's stop here and we will cover the basic tools, which are the morning pages and the artist date next week.
Yeah, there is a lot to unpack in these chapters, way more than I had anticipated.
Yeah, that was that. Okay, thanks everyone for listening. And just so you know, we have a process group. Want to tell us about the process? We have a process group.
We have a process group. It meets every week on Wednesday, 5:00 Pacific Standard Time. You show up, you hang out on Zoom. It's really fun. We've got lots of authors with varying levels of experience, and I always get something out of it every time. Sometimes they're talking about a win. Sometimes they're talking about a rejection. Sometimes they're talking about process, like how to show up to the page. Maybe they'll talk about morning pages, or maybe they'll give you another strategy. It's really fun. We'll be there. And it's free. You can find it on meetup.com. We are Words to Write By Process Group. You just type that in, or you can go to our website, Words to Write By podcast.com. And on the very front page, there's a banner that talks about it. You click the banner, it takes you right to meetup.com.
All right. Hope to see you then. Have a great week.
Buy Kim's book. Buy it.
Words to Write By is produced by Renee Nelson and Kim Smiga-Otto. Our theme music is Roll Back the Carpet by Cool Cat Music. Have a great day.
Boundaries. All right.